Welcome to What We Watch Wednesday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're talking Godzilla Minus One, the last Wednesday of the year. This is Godzilla Minus One with What We Watch. So many movies this year. We did so much. And it's been so much fun. None of us knew what to expect. And if you did, please let us know. But we had such a good time here. Let's chat Godzilla Minus One. Welcome to my lovely co-host Tej of One Take Pod and What We Watch. Hello, hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. The first Wednesday after Christmas and the last Wednesday of the year. It is What We Watch Wednesday. Did you guys love this movie or did you guys love this movie? Which one is it actually? Tej, how did you feel?
I was extremely impressed with it. I listened to people tell me how good it was for about a week and a half before I was able to go see it, and I was just completely blown away. I had always known Godzilla to be, no disrespect, but I had always known Godzilla to be like great in B movies. You could have some great, good fun with Godzilla and see a couple cool scenes. That's kind of the most you can hope for in a Godzilla movie, and this was totally different. They gave us real cinema all around. They gave us every minute was amazing, not just when Godzilla was on screen. I had never seen that done before in a Godzilla movie.
So I want to talk about like a little bit about what you're saying, right? What was the last Godzilla movie you watched before this one?
The one with Kong, Godzilla versus Kong.
And how did you feel about that one?
There were some cool scenes. I didn't like how they did my guy Kong, Justice for Kong. He was getting cooked, but it wasn't. It's like oh, that was a fun monster movie, but I didn't walk away thinking they had achieved some great achievement. It looked good on the big screen, and there were a couple cool fight scenes. But other than that, I can't tell you anything else about that film. So it was just, I got what I expected when I saw Godzilla versus Kong.
So it's interesting you say that because there's at least, I don't know, over the last, 50, 70 years, there's like how many Godzilla movies just in general? Probably like 20?
Yeah, if you're counting American and Japanese,
Yeah,
yeah, I would say probably
there's
20.
there's like 20 Godzilla movies. And the last one I watched was also Godzilla versus Kong. Um, which included Kong, and I think there's a couple of them that I don't know why it's in the Godzilla franchise, but there's also like it's not in the Godzilla franchise, but you could think about Kong, which is kind of gives you like creature features, right? And it's in that realm which we love. But for some reason, the Japanese, as I've always known, just know how to go off. And this film was a Japanese film. It was subtitled the entire time. Um, and I almost didn't even realize it until like 30 minutes in. It was twofold, right? First of all, I'm studying Japanese because I watch a lot of anime and I love Japanese filmmaking and Japanese culture. So for a while, I was like, oh, I understand some of these words. I know some of these words. If you don't know that reference, then you might be too young to be in here. But it was so much fun that I didn't even realize it was in a different language for a while. And then when I did realize, I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, it has been like this the whole movie. They haven't switched one time. And that just speaks to how quickly it captures you. Now, I remember plenty about Godzilla versus Kong, and the plenty is Brian Tyree Henry. Um, that did a fantastic job, but I remember specifically feeling like, oh man, like he didn't get to do enough in this movie. And that usually is no shade or maybe a little bit of shade that the movie didn't do enough for him, right? We kind of say, oh, he didn't do enough, he didn't get to do enough. And it's like, no, the movie didn't do enough for Brian Tyree, who's a phenomenal actor, right? But in this movie, I couldn't tell you that I knew any of the names of any of the actors or the cast before I saw it, and I was like, "What is going on?" So, what made this movie good? Tej, let's talk about why we love this movie.
Well, first of all, the easiest thing to point out is that the actual story of the humans that you follow in this movie is compelling. They're not just people, they're not just fodder for Godzilla to eventually kill and step on. We're following the story of a kamikaze pilot, and the first time we meet him, we see him literally, basically neglect his duty. He doesn't go through with his kamikaze mission. He gets on the ground. He says that something went wrong with his plane, but we know that's not really what happened. He kind of gets called out on that, and so we meet him at a time where he was supposed to die, and he doesn't die, and that's just such a compelling way to open a story. This is before we even see Godzilla. You've already got me into a concept of like, wow, can't say I've ever seen that before. That's interesting. Let's see what happens to him now. Already from the beginning, you've established some interest in the human character before we've even seen the monster show up.
And if I may intrude here and say that, before we even meet Gojira, which, hello, welcome to what we watch. The Japanese name for Godzilla is the original name is Gojira. 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 And it's interesting because I only learned that after watching Godzilla versus Kong and kind of being like, where did they take this? Why was this movie like this? I mean, I didn't have a terrible time, but I don't, it was kind of like that movie was kind of like a party that you go to and your friends were there, so you had a good time, but the party itself wasn't great. Like, that's how I felt about Godzilla versus Kong. And Gojira, the Godzilla Minus One, opens with, like you said, this kamikaze pilot. But I have to speak specifically to the directing. You open with a scene from the angle below a plane, like you're hanging off a plane that's about to land. And it's kind of like a loud, rickety plane, you can tell, right? So it places in your brain, like, okay, we're in the air, we're landing. I know, Godzilla's somewhere, right? Like, that's the cool thing about every Godzilla movie. You're always waiting to see him. But this movie did such a unique thing in which it told the story of the people that were waiting for Godzilla, and you stayed in the story with them. And so you land with this kamikaze pilot on this rickety ass plane, and the camera is like, it's like you're hanging off of it, and then it lands, and then it cuts to this, like, what might be a remote island, we don't know. So just from a directing and artistic standpoint, I'm like, yo, this is already different, because think about how every other Godzilla movie starts out. We rely very heavily on Godzilla. Go ahead, Teach.
It's also very when you start onto that plane, it immediately puts you in a time period because you see by the type of plane it is that okay, this is a World War I, World War II movie. This is somewhere around there, and obviously you know it's World War II because of the history of Godzilla. But not knowing anything, it immediately places you in a time, and I always appreciate that where you don't have to put a font up that says what year it is because you show me that plane and I immediately understand what's happening. This is a warplane. This is a fighter pilot, and it's somewhere around the 1940s. I really like that decision to start the movie there.
Yep. KP, you raising your hand? Go ahead.
Peace to everyone. Shout out to Mo. I hope they added your name to the Sokovia Accords. So yeah, I hope you got added because you deserve it. um, Real quick, this is my top three favorite movie of the year.
As it should be.
And I think that this movie, it doesn't rely on Godzilla. It tells a great story of PTSD. Also, this movie plays into it's a juxtaposition of a different Godzilla, like we was talking about, Godzilla vs. Kong. And this movie released um, and simultaneously with Monarch on Apple Plus, or that godforsaken Apple TV. Um, and I love Monarch. Like I'm in love with Monarch. I guess the lead actress I got a crush on. Like that show is amazing. But this one was different but the same, because if you go back into the history books, the story was told before, like how they killed him and all that other stuff. I was familiar with the story, but how they executed it was awesome, because
Right.
I was enthralled with the story of the humans. And then when Godzilla showed up, that was the icing on the cake. And shout out to Godzilla for being what we call an asshole. He was a jerk. He had no love. He didn't have no heart. He ran through them people's villages after
Period.
they got
Big
bombed.
mood.
He said, "It's not torn up enough. Y'all cleaned it up. Now watch this. I'm gonna take my tail, clean it up again."
Cleaned
He was
up.
a jerk. He was a
Here's the
jerk.
thing.
Shout out to Jerky Godzilla.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I'm gonna focus on what you said. Godzilla was the icing on the cake. How are you the icing on the cake in your own movie? Like, that's mind blowing. Like, how you're supposed to be the cake, you're supposed to be the meat and potatoes, you're supposed to be everything. This movie was so well told and it was so well written that Godzilla was like, oh my god, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great, oh my god. But it's like obviously we needed him because it's called Godzilla Minus One, but instead of just throwing us into the destruction of Godzilla, we were like, okay, how did we get here? And it made you ask questions, to your point again, KP, about like the history here, right? And so when I was watching it, I was like, okay, so we talk a little bit about the atomic, radiation, right? We talk more about like, okay, how was Godzilla created? We never really get that answer. People don't even have the dialogue in most of their movies to like see how he was. We just kind of all accept that he exists. So this one's like, let's have the audience and some of the people like really interrogate how Godzilla is so powerful, why he's so powerful, and how he chooses, right? So we're getting like tracking of Godzilla, like he's one of the animals of the real world, right? That happens in the real world. Then we're getting like, let's understand his powers and try to really kind of attack them and set up this kind of scene where, it is like a war. And he is, some sort of other country or some sort of other entity that is attacking this country, and not just a group of people or a city. Like, we are at war. He's strategic, or it's strategic, and we have to be strategic as well. Tej, what do you think?
Yeah, it's first of all, your Godzilla doesn't always have his full set of powers from certain movies. So the way that they, for example, introduced the fact that he, after the atomic bomb is hit, that now he's got like nuclear powers, he can like shoot a nuclear blast. The way they first open that up and show that when he blows up that boat, it was breathtaking. Like, that was so stunning to see how they did it. And I know we're going to talk a lot about the budget of this movie. Reportedly, it was about $15 million. This does not look like a $15 million movie. Godzilla looks fucking amazing, and the way that when that boat gets evaporated like that, that shit looked amazing. I was on the edge of my seat, and that's one of the first Godzilla scenes in the movie. That's at the beginning. I'm already like, wow, what they're able to accomplish is just extremely impressive thing to put on screen.
We've seen Godzilla in the water before. I can't remember any of those scenes anymore. I remember Godzilla Minus One scenes of Godzilla in the water. Wow. I was gripping my seat as though I was on the boat myself. I was I was absolutely enthralled. First of all, Godzilla looked the fuck good. Excuse me, honey? You are serving face, very terrifying face, but you are serving face, okay? The body is bodying, like you look like no one can touch you. You are gigantic. And like, these are things that matter, right? I think that movies previously relied too heavily on us knowing enough about Godzilla and not making the monster intriguing enough. And this Japanese film was like, no, 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 no. Y'all need to really tap into how powerful Godzilla is. Y'all need to really kind of understand how and when it uses its powers and how it decides, right? Like KP was saying, an absolute jerk. Like there is no mercy. No, 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 no. And it's interesting that you say that he was a jerk because the movie opens the first 10 minutes. Like honestly, it was a cold open because I think the credits rolled afterwards, and we do see what might be an idea of sympathy, right? Because he spared one or two people out of the 30 people on that island that we met initially. So it's like, how should we feel about Godzilla after this first 10 to 15 minutes? So it was so interesting that we didn't even rely on visuals too much, and they blew that out of the water too. But we finally they didn't rely on the audience knowing who Godzilla was. They were like, no, we're finna tell you that this motherfucker evolves. This motherfucker be in the bottom of the ocean. This motherfucker strategically decides when and how he's going to attack and where, which we're going to get to that, Tej. I had a problem with some of the environments and some of the nautical miles and locations and how fast we got to places.
There were some liberties taken. I can agree with that.
There were definitely a lot of liberties taken on where we were on in Japan, and how long we were in the water and how big he is and which trench we were at and how long it took us, because those tugboats made it very quickly without anyone noticing to the boat to save them in the final scenes. And they wrapped and they got attached to those boats pretty quickly, and I'm like, oh, this is really fast. This was like almost unbelievably fast. I'm like, well, no way you could lose the war if you can tie to a boat this fast. But yeah, I just really had a good time with it, simultaneously telling a very, very romantic, very, very gut-wrenching story, not relying heavily on Godzilla itself, but then also blowing us out of the water. I've never seen a better Godzilla. It's 2023. We've seen some good Godzillas. We've watched a Godzilla movie and been like, wow, that was a good, scary looking Godzilla. Never like this. I mean, this Godzilla had the jawline, had the high cheekbones, had the bodying. It was absolutely insane, and it was absolutely terrifying. And the spikes on his back. Talk about how good Godzilla looked. Teach.
It's, again, just when I didn't know the budget of the movie or the reported budget of the movie going into it, so hearing it afterwards, I was mind blown by it because he looks incredible. It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look like he was rendered badly. He looks good on the land. He looks good in the water, and he is fucking horrifying. And that alone makes it better than some of the big budget Godzilla movies that we've seen in America, where Godzilla just looks kind of wonky and it kind of takes you out of the movie. The way Godzilla looked never for once took me out of the movie. We are getting close-ups on Godzilla. We are looking him dead in the face, and it's just incredible what they were able to accomplish with that kind of budget.
KP?
Yeah, I was blessed to see this movie in 4DK. So it was a roller coaster once that movie, literally. I loved it. What this movie did show me was, and what I learned was that there's multiple versions of Godzilla. So you have like the American version, you have different versions,
right?
From different points of view. However, this movie is if Black people told the slavery story in their own voice. So if the story would look different, the details will be different. The gravity of the story would hold more weight from people that were actually involved in the story. Not saying that Godzilla was real, but the atomic bomb was real, and those stories was real. So they that Godzilla was just inward. You can enter that story of the ramifications of the atomic bomb by saying, "Hey, we got a monster here. So now let's tell our story, how we were affected by." These countries said, you know what? Nah, we can't even help you, dude. Nah, we can't help you. Russia might come in. Nah, y'all got to handle that yourself. We can't get involved in y'all little issues. Hence, they got the bomb dropped on them, so they had to band together as people.
Yes.
So it was more of a people story. Added Godzilla, and you make a great dish.
It
I
was
found
beautiful, right? Oh, go ahead, Teach. Go ahead.
I found that so fascinating, the fact that we still had the dynamics at play between Japan and Russia, even though like there is a world crushing monster that literally just showed up like in our land. Like we should all be using our resources to fight this thing. This is not whatever war, whatever humans got going on. We got to get Godzilla the fuck out of here first because he is horrifying.
Yeah, that's why this is a influencer Vinny reference. I don't know if y'all follow Vinny or Vinny on Instagram. It's like Earth is not gonna make it into the intergalactic federation because we will fight over resources before we come together to fight a common enemy. Like, what is going on here? And KP, you made me realize something so cool about this movie. If you don't like war movies, which this is technically a war, you'll like this movie. If you don't like romance, dramatic movies, you'll like this movie. If you don't like subtitled movies, you'll like this movie. And if you don't like Godzilla movies, you'll like this movie. And that's why it's one of the best movies I've watched this year. It was the most visually stunning by far. And I've watched some really well directed and edited films all year. Y'all know it. This is what we watch. But this movie nailed it on visuals. Like, even to the details of like, as a creature gets closer to you, the details of its mouth, its face, its body, its spikes, its color should be different. And as Godzilla gets closer in the water or on land, it just he looks even more terrifying. And the music matches it, right? You know me and my bad guys. Horror films, what is the currency? Sound. And they knew how to make Godzilla himself sound absolutely terrifying, even from the way he got charged up, which is, wow, so cool. Now he's getting charged up because he, got affected by an atomic bomb. And it is just, I was absolutely blown away. The further away, he should look a little bit less terrifying, but still very terrifying, still very large. And then you get closer and you're like, oh my gosh, his teeth are the size of a skyscraper. Oh my gosh, his tongue is this. Oh my gosh, his mouth has to regenerate. Oh my gosh, the most terrifying stuff. Like, it is so fun to say that something is both as beautiful and as terrifying. Like, how y'all know me. There's nothing better. Like, it was simultaneously the most stunning, beautiful scenes with Godzilla and just so terrifying. Like, please take me out. I was like, don't put me on no mine-sweeping boat. I'm good, man. Take me out. I see 1.5 spikes come out the water. I'm good, bro. I'm not staying on no boat. Just put me in the water. I should come up. Just put me up like those dead fish, okay? And we keep talking about the story. And TJ, I want you to tap back into like the story, but let's not talk around the story. The story is about baseline about a struggling kamikaze pilot and his relationship with life and death, right? And his relationship with why he gets to be alive, and his relationship with why people keep dying around him, or why Gojira maybe or may not have spared him. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the story itself. And it's like, okay, how is a Godzilla movie also simultaneously about this one guy who maybe accidentally, stumbled upon Godzilla once. No one knows it. No one believes it. He goes back to his country. Everyone's just kind of hating him. And it's like, where is this going to go? When are we going to see Godzilla again? How does this tie back into Godzilla? And then the movie does it. It's so well written that it does it perfectly. And on his journey back to kind of quote unquote taking out Godzilla, quote unquote, maybe, maybe not, spoiler, maybe not, he encounters this woman and this child. And immediately I'm thinking, okay, this is like the creator. This is like Star Wars. This is like movies I've seen before and shows I've seen before where not Star Wars. Yeah, it is Star Wars. What is it called? The Mandalorian, where you just stumble upon somebody that needs you or somebody that, won't leave you and like won't leave you alone and you're on your own journey. You're already struggling and they're doing is adding to your stress. I love stories like this. Like, will you help out someone else at your lowest? That's good storytelling right there. So Tej, I want to talk specifically to the story, right? Because we can have a whole space and not even mention Godzilla. That's how secondary, tertiary he was to this movie, but simultaneously primary because those scenes were incredible. Go ahead.
It's one of those things where yeah, obviously he meets this woman who's in dire straits just like he is, and then he's kind of called by duty to step up and be a father, but he's also not willing to step up and be a father. The scene
Hmm.
where the other guys on the mine boat are like, "Why don't you just be a father to the kid? You have this amazing woman, like you have this kid who's looking up to you. Why not just be a father?" And he is neglecting that duty not because he doesn't have any interest in being a father or because he doesn't like this kid or this woman, but really because he doesn't realize why he's alive and he doesn't know that he's going to be alive much longer. So it is he wants to try to make as little associations as possible, but not realizing that he's already made those associations, and kind of having that tie into his survivor's guilt, his survivor's remorse into that is just a really good way to tell the story, and it brings some really incredible moments with the woman and with the daughter, with him coming to grips with who he's supposed to be and what his duty is. I thought it was just a great way to tell the story, like you said.
Yeah, and I think about it. One of my favorite scenes was between him and the woman. And, when I say favorite scene, I don't think that there was a scene that I didn't love in this movie, and that's just good writing. It's not even it's good writing, it's good directing, it's definitely just good writing. There's not one scene in this movie that isn't my favorite. To be honest with you, every single Godzilla scene was my favorite. Every single scene with why don't we remember our main character's name? Every single scene was my favorite scene. But one of my favorite scenes was when she is getting dressed in the mirror because it represents a shift in our core romance of the film, pillar of what we watch. Every film is a romance. How did this movie end? Thank you. But it presents a shift where she's like essentially, right, if this was a black American cast, sweetie, I'm gonna go get mine because you playing. Okay? You playing. You don't want to be my baby daddy. You don't want to be my husband. Okay, cool. I'm finna do my hair now that we getting money. I'm finna get my own job because you were getting money really, but now we're gonna get money. And I'm gonna be going into the city every now and then looking like I do in this new dress. Yes, that you bought me. Thank you. But you doing all of this and you don't want to take on the responsibility that comes with all of this. She was basically like, sweetie, you got a bad bitch right here, but that's cool because you saw me before. You couldn't see the bad bitch in me then. But thank you for taking us in. And so it did such a good job of like, I think I'm okay with any kind of interpretation of that scene, right? Because it's like, girl, I did all of this for you. You did all this. I did all this for you and the kid. But like, you get that kind of moment from his boat friends, right? With is it Minesweeping? Did I just make that up because it's the game and I love that game?
No, I
Mine,
think that's actually what they're doing is
that's technically Minesweeping, right? And so we get that scene that Teach reference to where he's like, but what do you mean you're not a father? What are you talking? Well, no, it's not. We're just living together, right? It's like the dude that's like, no, we're not together. We just do everything together. We live together. We sleep together. I take care of her kid and I buy her everything. But no. I'm not a father or a husband. Relax. And it's just like that movie has these really like light, funny moments, but really our main character is he can't even fathom being anything for anyone else because it's not that he doesn't want to live, it's not that he can't figure out how to live. He is like, why am I alive? And that is like the top level of like existential. He is like, why am I still alive?
his name is
How?
Kenji, by the way, Kenji.
Kenji is like, why am I alive? I I'm gonna do this because I have a goal in mind, which is to take down this person or this creature that kind of rendered all of my like what I thought to be friends or mates or but I don't know what's called in a war, the people you fight with, all of them are dead except maybe one, which was another cool story there. And so I have my vendetta towards this creature that I don't even know if people have seen yet or people believe exists yet. I'm trying to tell y'all it exists, but I don't even know why I'm alive. I don't even know how or why. And so how could I be a father? And then on the other hand, you're like, man, It doesn't matter. Like, you are. So, like, start to have that perspective, start to change your perspective on life. You're doing meaningful things. It doesn't matter why you're alive. Look at what you're doing while you're alive. So it was just so beautiful to intertwine and weave that into a Godzilla movie, guys. I just spent 2 minutes talking about that story. This is a Godzilla movie. Okay, we're talking about a Godzilla movie. You don't get to do this with Hollywood American Godzilla movies. It's just, you don't get to do this. You don't get to have this really kind of, wow, like, what great romantic writing in a Godzilla movie? No.
And it
Jason, welcome
really
to the, go ahead, Teach.
And it's not even just like, oh, they did a good job when Godzilla's not on screen, but then Godzilla gets on screen and we just get a romp. We do get that,
Exactly.
but it makes those moments so much more valuable with Godzilla when we get this backstory, because when we finally get our big hero moment at the end, where now Kenji's going to finally not
Right.
have his hand be shaky and he's finally going to have his heroic moment, it makes the stakes of that so much higher because of the work that we put into the story. And we know what he's leaving
Yes.
behind. And we know the sacrifice he's really making by giving up his life, because plenty of people are going to die in a Godzilla movie. But for this specific person, we know exactly what sacrifice he's making when he gets into that plane.
Exactly. And that's how you get us what? Invested. Jason, welcome to the stage. How are you?
Thanks. First and foremost, thank you earlier for the Good Burger reference, the greatest movie
You're,
of all
thank
time.
you.
So
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
knowing.
that. Yeah. So it's interesting because obviously, Godzilla can also be a representation of his guilt, like Teach was saying, survivor's remorse, but it's also, I think, in itself, a representation of his redemption. And so when you're talking about, well, you have this woman and this child that you're looking after and that love and support you, but he's kind of guilty and trying to redeem himself because he feels guilty for not doing his duty, right? Every time he sees somebody and says he was a pilot, they're looking like, well, why are you here right now? You shouldn't be here. And so, and even when the island, he wakes up and everybody's dead, and you have the guy saying, like, you did this because you didn't shoot. This is the result of you. He has this ongoing battle to where I don't even think he's ready, like you said, to be a father, to be a husband, because he doesn't know his purpose. He's still trying to redeem himself for what he feels he's responsible for. When he comes home and sees his parents are dead, right? He takes that as part of himself too. And
Yep.
so it's interesting because I can't remember the director's name. I think it's Yamazaki, but he did a movie a while back about the same thing, about a kamikaze pilot, and kind of the mentality of nationalism versus individualism, and whether or not he's supposed to be doing this and sacrificing himself for the greater good. And so in that movie, ultimately the pilot does kill himself, but in this movie he does it. And so it's almost like for the director too, this is kind of like a redemption, having a redemption arc for a movie that he did earlier to where the guy didn't have that, right? So it's both sides of the coin. So I just thought it was interesting for him to be able to bring that full circle, and same thing with, not just the survivor's guilt and just also the redemption of the main character himself.
Absolutely, yes. And his name is Takashi Yamazaki. He wrote, directed, and directed the visual effects of this film. I mean, so I don't know, is he like the number one? I mean, give him all the awards, I guess. Like,
He's,
what
I
is
mean,
he?
even the main character is a big deal in Japan right now too. Like he's in all the
As
blockbusters. So yeah, this
Kenji,
they went for it.
as he should be. I'm so glad us Americans over here got to see it. Wow, wow, wow. And, Jason, you made me realize something too, just speaking to like the kamikaze pilot story. And you kind of took what I was going to say regarding Takashi Yamazaki as a director and the responsible for the screenplay. Because to me, that's what blew me away. Like, a great screenwriting, there's a lot of elements, right? We could ask anybody what great screenwriting is, but no part of the story goes, I would say, untold or unsolved. And solved doesn't mean like we solve a mystery. It means that every scene and every bit of dialogue was accounted for at some point later on in the movie, right? And it's like a complete circle, a complete loop. Everything that was said matters, everything that was shown on screen matters, everything was referenced and understood, and it was a closed loop. And Takashi really, really did that with this film. But what you made me realize too is like that kind of individualism versus that. Think about this movie in Hollywood, in English, in America. It almost doesn't work because you just said what? You had a kamikaze pilot that didn't go through his with his job? We hate him. We hate him. You're not serving your country correctly. You're not doing anything. It almost doesn't work from an American perspective, given our history, given the way we look at. Think about every war movie you've seen. Those people, like, in order for us to get invested in the triumph of a character, we don't make him do the worst thing that you could do for your country or whatever it means in the military in the beginning of the movie. No, no, no. And so it's so fascinating that we got this main character, this protagonist that almost is also not an antagonist per se, but like, it's like, well, you want us to be invested in you, but you didn't do your job. And now we have the characters surrounding you kind of speaking for what most people that kind of understand, what you're serving your duty and what you're supposed to do for your country, speaking for those people, like, hey, you ain't shit. Like, a lot of people are dead because of you. But this movie just does such a good job, and the actor just such a good job. Please tell me the actor. He does such a good job of being so sympathetic, so defeated by this, to where the audience is like, wait, let's hear him out. Hold on. And now you're actually questioning the definition and what he signed up to do. You're not questioning someone that like didn't sign up to do exactly what he was going to do, right? You are questioning, you're not questioning someone that didn't do that. You're questioning someone that was like, no, this is my entire life. Like, I was hired to do this. I agreed to this. And in the last minute, I turned my plane around. Like, it wasn't like he got out, and many moments you can choose not to be that person to serve your country in that way. And he didn't. And so they kind of weave that in throughout the entire film, and they put those moments in the dialogue. And then you slowly see him kind of deteriorate mentally in front of this woman that he may or may not be in love with, right? We all know he was in love, but like, he's questioning what does life even mean? And so it's fascinating because I don't think that works in America and in Hollywood. We don't feel the same way, right? And so I think it's so profound to me, and it speaks to Japanese filmmaking because, and Takashi himself, because we talk more about what is community and that versus like individualism, and how are we going to kind of assess your place in your community or country or whatever it is. And what better way than to talk about you going to war, and then what better way than to show that there's this clear creature and monster that none of you can do anything about whatsoever, none of you, but then our main character can. KP, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this story is so good because it has many different redemptions. So the general that was on the island in the first scene, he redeemed himself, or he redeemed the idea of the kamikaze pilot when at the end he told him to live. Like, he was going through trauma, and he tracked him down, and he was off the grid and off that stuff, and he gave him a purpose again. And he was like, yo, I just need your help. And he gave that general purpose again. And that was part of his redemption story. Even the last scene when he was speaking to his the wife that he had that he didn't want, that he didn't know that he wanted until she left him. And then, you don't know what you got till it's gone. So
I love that scene. Do you hear me?
When she asked him, are you finished? Did you finish fighting your war?
Mm.
And he said yes, and he laid his head down on her shoulder. That was it. I cried while my chair was shaking and the water was spouting in my face because I was in force. I cried at that
crying
part.
at a movie. Let me tell you something. This is a Godzilla movie we're talking about, okay? He just defeated Godzilla. A Hollywood movies, that's it. That's it. Let's just go back home, or, go back and show, and let's zoom out and pan out from the city and show everyone that we're, rebuilding, reconstructing, and everyone's happy, and, kumbaya, right? This movie was like, that wasn't even really what he was here for. The story wasn't about defeating Godzilla. It was about defeating Godzilla and surviving so that you could love the ones in your life. That's what this movie is about.
Can I
Defeating
also say,
Godzilla and
I think,
surviving and being able to show the love and kind of, right, without saying it, that scene showed, here's why I'm alive. And it's for these two women. Here's why. I was asking this whole time, why and how am I alive? It is to change your life, let them change your life, and for you to change their life. And is your war over? Is your fight over, right? Yes. as though it was just a throwaway kind of thing. Like, man, the hard part, the easy part's over. That's the easy. Okay, you defeated Godzilla and you survived. Now come be a father and a husband. Very profound, guys. Very profound. I started crying too. Dre, welcome to the stage. Talk to us.
Uh, Good to hear from everybody. You mentioned about how every word in dialogue mattered in the film, and right before the big kind of emotional grab scene at the end, you think about the arc between Kenji and his neighbor, who at the beginning of the movie was just disgusted with him, didn't want to see him. Why are you here? You betrayed us.
Yep.
You're why we're all blown up like this. And then as the movie progressed, you get to a point where at the end now she's running to him, congratulating him on beating Godzilla, telling the first one that greet him off the boat, saying, "Hey, your wife's alive, excited to see him." And so just I feel like every character relationship had an arc that had a nice, satisfying ending. And I think that we've and all the images of destruction kind of gave a nice foundation for everybody that had these emotional beats, right? Where you have Kenji, who's building up his house, and he's feeling better about himself, just to have Godzilla come back in his life again, right? Everyone's feeling good, and just as Godzilla's ruining everything for them, they all decided we've built up so much in a couple of years. We have as a small town have to have this togetherness,
Right.
that maybe we were all kind of for ourselves at the beginning of this and building up ourselves, and now we all have to be together to fight this thing. And I think it was just really so much of the relationships in the movie were so
Yes.
great that again, Godzilla is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and so and it's all and I'm totally fine with don't have to think about people and rah rah and destruction, but when we get a good like relationship building movie where
Right.
you just care about the kid and the captain. You're like, oh my gosh,
Yep. The boat
here's the kid.
captain.
The kid
Yep.
who had like 8 fight lines the whole movie. Yay! Glad you're here. Everyone it felt like just had a relationship that was believable and authentic, and you bought into it, and you cared about their safety. Um, just on you care about not just I guess they died. It was no, I want all of them to survive. I don't want any of them to get hurt.
Yeah.
Anytime Godzilla came on screen, you were scared for people's lives. You were scared for every your main characters. You were
You
you were just like, oh man,
exactly. And
man.
And it's interesting, right? Because so, like, if I criticize a movie, I could probably put it into like 3 to 5 categories of my criticisms of films and TV shows. And one of them is often, I don't care what happens to this character. I can't stay in this movie because your main character, I don't care. I don't care. Oh no, they lost their what's it called? And it'll be like in real life, devastating. But the story just doesn't get like I don't care that his great uncle got cancer. Oh no, I don't care that his teenage sweetheart won't write him back a letter, right? There's whole movies like based on these kind of things, and I just don't care, right? And with Godzilla, I cared about the fate of every single character, every single person on that minesweeping boat from the time he said, "Sweetie, this doesn't look like the best boat, but you need to pay attention because you don't know nothing. This boat is made out of wood, and guess what won't set off a mine? A wooden boat. Now get your ass in here and shut the hell up, talking to me like you know anything about what we're about to do. You just here to get some money, so shut up and get your money." Like immediately, I'm invested. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I'm in. Let's listen to him, right? The guy that's like, man, I used to be in war too, and I used to do this. I'm invested in him because now we've got him, his, military experience versus our main character Kenji's experience. It's like, okay, like what's going on? Like, well, okay, like are they gonna clash? And so at every turn, at every moment, I'm completely invested in the fate of all of these characters. Most Godzilla movies, the best relationships you can get are okay, Godzilla versus Kong. I'm going to see, okay, well, how are they going to pan out? Or Godzilla versus, the people. Or maybe you care about half a relationship. Like maybe you care about one person saving his daughter from the destruction of God. Maybe. Maybe. But this movie, I was so invested in all of them. And quite frankly, I need some sort of like bell or something, but it's villain apologist time. And I'm not even joking. Did anyone ask Godzilla how he feels? Because here's the
Oh,
thing.
here we go.
Here's the thing. Did anyone have you had an atomic bomb change your entire structure? Maybe you just wanted somebody to talk to. Maybe he just got on land because he's trying to figure out somebody to talk to, and immediately you come on and you start shooting at him. They kind of alluded to it in the beginning of the movie. They're like, wait, hold on now. Wait, do we shoot this? Is this gun going to even do anything? And what he do? He just really shot back. Really? I don't know, guys. Let's talk about it. Teach, what do you think? I don't
I
know,
mean,
guys.
he probably killed 1,000 people, if not more. He was stepping on people. He was blowing up boats. There's no villain apology for Godzilla. Godzilla
Did
is
we
literally a
ask him
monster.
how he felt?
He can't talk, or at least not in a way that we can understand. So a conversation wouldn't have done much.
I don't know. I think Kenji could have spoken to him. Jason, Dre, KP, do we just hate Godzilla? I don't know, guys. Maybe I don't know.
I,
I think I
I
don't know.
felt bad. I was like, Godzilla, chill, dog, chill. Like, chill. I know you hurt, but come on, man, let these people get to work. Like I was feeling bad. I'm a villain. My favorite characters are all villains. I Darth Vader is my favorite character of all time in any genre. But Godzilla in this movie, I was like, come on, man. These people just trying to get to work. They just had a bomb dropped on them. They just cleaned up. It's like when you pay off that credit card, then Christmas time coming. You're like, God damn it. God, like you can't get right. Like Godzilla was going through something. I think he's going to have a redemption story too, because he actually had some consequences to his actions when he's down at the ocean coming back to life like he's goddamn Deadpool.
I don't know,
Like
guys. The only reason our protagonist is alive is because Gogeta spared him. I don't know, guys. If that's not redeeming enough, I don't know what to tell you guys.
What
All
about the
right.
other 10,000 people that he killed,
Here's the thing.
who
Here's the
also had an
thing.
atomic bomb dropped on them, by the way? There wasn't
We
just Godzilla who got hit by the bomb.
we gotta hear both sides. I think we gotta hear both sides. Let's just okay. He's big, right? He's big. He's pretty big. Okay, and so he's gonna be accidentally destructive. But like, don't shoot at me. Okay, because now I'm like, oh, we want to use our guns? We want to use our weapons? Oh, let me show you my weapon. I feel like Godzilla was low-key just kind of just swimming in the water having a bath. I mean, where else is he supposed to bathe? He can't bathe anywhere else. So I was like, I don't know that he's really the villain, but I was okay that they took him out because, you do suffer the consequences for killing tens of thousands of people. It's very true. It's very true. But I just feel like maybe one or two conversations, the doctor, the really smart doctor, could have probably figured out a way to communicate. Actually, he did because he used his own voice to go back at him. And so I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I was kind of really excited when Godzilla was there. I was like, oh my God, look at him. Look at the sweet baby. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I kind of on both sides of the coin with you on this one. Never Omni Man.
Yes, Jason.
You're not gonna get that from me. But for this movie in particular, I'm gonna be with you because if, like you said, the only person Godzilla spared, and it was the very beginning, is the same person that ended up being the nail in the coffin for him, literally. So for him, he gonna be like, see, that's exactly why I need to kill everybody. I can't
This is
trust
exactly why
nobody
I act the way I
because
do.
yeah, exactly. I try to spare y'all, and this is how you treat me. So I get that, but yeah, so I think like that could be his redemption. But I
Mm.
agree. It's also like, yeah, you can't just hop in the Ginza and kill thousands of folks just because you mad. That's not, you gotta suffer the consequence for that action. So this is the one time you're gonna get a both side of the coin from me. Omni Man, no, absolutely not. That man needs to be taken out forever.
Jason, you've seen my Omni Man tweets. Oh
I
no.
was in the room and I
He's the
wanted to respond, but I was just
sweetest.
so disgusted I couldn't. I had no words for you.
Okay, but did you see that we had a spectrum from 0 to 100 and you saw where the scales kind of teetered? Here's the thing. That's all I'm saying. Dre, how did you feel? All right. Were you completely like, get Godzilla out of here? I can't wait till he dies. No, you weren't. Don't lie and say you were. You kind of wanted him to cook a little bit.
Listen, this Godzilla is the biggest a-hole Godzilla I've ever seen in my life. This other Godzillas, I'm like, you know what? I understand. This man was a bully. But no, you got reporters just talking on the building. He was on one side of the town. Said, "No what? Let me just tail whip real quick." And tell what real quick, not the building down for no reason. And you know what? And then the tanks, you know what? You know you can destroy tanks, Godzilla. This wasn't hurting you. You know what? Here's a atomic bomb for you, real quick. Let me just give you a atomic bomb. Bye.
No one asked him how much pain he went through in that atomic bomb.
No one asked him. But you know what? He wasn't trying to hear it either, though. He said,
We had a
I'm gonna get
whole
you."
montage of his body like kind of deforming as a result of the atomic bomb. My guy turned up. It was almost like unclear what was happening. It was like, what is that? What is that in the water? And I was like, that's Godzilla. But like, what is happening? I just feel like, he's just so big and so scary looking. And, we just don't know how to respond to that. We just don't know how to respond to big, scary looking people or creatures. We just don't know how to respond.
And he
That's
was a
just
bully. A bully. I will say I did enjoy.
Okay, did y'all
I did.
watch the movie? There were so many moments where he just got on land and was just stomping around. Sure, he accidentally crushed some people. Sure. But he didn't do
Accidentally
nothing.
is not that's debatable.
He
No,
messed
he
up
was
all that
just
infrastructure.
walking. Here's the thing. When did Gojira turn up? After he felt the thing, it's like when somebody pokes you. Know how mad you get when somebody pokes you? Sure, the poking is not destroying you. But you know how irritated you get? I'm going to poke one of y'all for the next 30 minutes. Just poke, 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 poke. And don't do anything mean to me. Don't act like I'm doing anything wrong. Just sit there and chill. Don't get upset. Don't make this more than it is. I'm just going to poke you. That's what they were doing to Godzilla. I was like, all right, man.
Godzilla had that girl on the train like she was Ethan Hawke in Mission Impossible. What
Okay,
was
but
he? What was his problem?
he could have flung that train 30 miles, but he didn't. He just kind of crushed it and it fell into the water and she survived. Are y'all done with me? Is anyone done yet? Teach, are you done with me
We
yet?
expect this from you, but Godzilla is horrible, horrible.
Oh no, he's
He
not.
killed thousands of people, and
He
fuck
was
him
cooking them.
and everybody who love him.
Nobody
Godzilla
can
was
get unemployment now. The unemployment office is gone. Nobody got no money. Come on.
Yo, he cleaned out half of the city, bro. Half of the city. They did such a good job. She was like, I'm going to work in Ginza. Next 30 minutes, Ginza's being completely taken down. I said, oh no. Oh no, go get your girl. But no, how did y'all feel about the relationship between these two? We really got to talk about that. How did you feel about the relationship? Jason, Dre, KP, the relationship between Kenji and his baby mama slash, and also, right? So beautiful, right? Because before I go, playfully say baby mama, she wasn't the child's mother either. And so we have a kamikaze pilot that doesn't even know why he's alive. We have a child that belongs to someone that was a casualty of the war that the movie wants us to remember that kind of could have maybe been saved by our protagonist. Then we have an annoying woman who is stealing, and she's not, I'm only saying she's annoying because that's what she was to the protagonist, right? Annoying woman that is thieving to feed the child, but also like kind of coast, like lowest of keys. Who doesn't want somebody to, glow up, right? Like our guy Kenji helped her glow up, like
Her
from
name
jump.
is
He's like
Noriko.
Noriko, Noriko Ishii. Thank you. I remember now. Noriko was like, man, this is a come up right here. And they built together like in any other movie, you could make an entire movie. You could remove Godzilla. This is still a great movie. And that is what is key. And that is what I wanted you guys to realize in this chat for Godzilla Minus One with what we watch. You remove Godzilla, this is still a phenomenal film because we're following this kamikaze pilot who doesn't know why he wants to live. And we literally have this extremely romantic but kind of like jarring kind of growth between two people that don't have any, physical intimacy per se until a little bit later in the film. Definitely no sexual intimacy. They're raising a kid that is neither of theirs. They're living in absolute rubble. And then we get this beautiful moment where he adds on to the house. Oh, I could have cried then too. He adds on to the house and it kind of, the camera kind of takes you in the journey and follows him into the house. It's like, oh my God, y'all, we up. And like you get so invested, like, oh my gosh, we're getting money. Oh, we're bringing in $3,000 today. Oh, we're bringing in $5,000 this week. Oh my gosh, we're getting a bigger house. and they built this together. Like, there's nothing more romantic. And so that's why you have the little comedic relief on the side through his Minesweeper boat friends. They're like, what you mean? Y'all are literally building together. People start off by falling in love and then try to do this and fail. And they fall out of love. They try to build something together. Y'all didn't even fall in love and built something beautiful together anyways. What you mean you're not going to try this romance or this attraction or this sexuality or this family kind of unit? What do you mean you're inviting us over to dinner in this house that you had built and you built over many, many years and created and made a home? And you sitting up here fighting us because we said you the daddy, you the pappy. What's going on here? Like, you're missing the point. And so I think that was so, so, so beautiful to see this extremely romantic story. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Past Lives does it. A lot of films do this where we take on every aspect of what might be extremely romantic between two people that visibly love each other by kissing and hugging and staring into each other's eyes while music plays and having sex and, raising children together. But what if none of that happens and those elements still stay there between, like, building a home together with two people, within two people? And that's what this movie did. I'm talking about a Godzilla movie, guys. I am talking about a Godzilla movie right now. And that's fascinating to me, and that blew me away. Tej, how do you feel?
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing dynamic between those two characters, and I really agree with your point about romance in a non-traditional sense, where it's like obviously they're literally building a life together and taking care of this kid together. And although he's not totally locked in, she's patient with him and giving him time because she realizes what's at play and what's kind of going on behind the scenes in his psyche and the trauma he's been through. But like I said, I just think that all is just such a good payout, and that story by itself is such a good story. But it makes the stakes ratcheted so high when he gets into that plane and finally has his hero's moment. It makes the stakes so much higher than if we just grabbed the guy. It was like, hey, we showed you he was brave at the beginning. Now he's going to do something brave. They actually showed you
Right.
that he was not very brave. Depending on how you define brave. Not necessarily the whole, the not going on the first mission, but really when he first sees Godzilla and he's got the gun on Godzilla, we know because of what happens in the movie that the gun wouldn't have actually done anything to Godzilla. Maybe it runs him off. It damn sure wasn't going to kill him because an atomic bomb only made him stronger. But the
Right.
fact that he, misses that moment and doesn't step forward and shoot that shot, and he feels the weight of survivor's guilt because of all the people that died there, even though he might not have actually saved those people, no matter what course of action he took, to get to that moment where he's in that plane. He's been told to live, but we don't know that yet because they didn't actually show that he was told to live yet, although it was easy to imply. You knew that, that's what he said. To have that moment where he drops the bomb and then he just flies into Godzilla's mouth, that was just pure cinema. That's why you go to the fucking movie theater. Like,
Exactly.
those are moments why you go sit down in the movie theater, you leave your house to go be in the comfort of a movie theater to see a movie. Those are moments that you're able to create on screen that give people thrills and stuff that people never forget. And that's a really, really special thing that they were able to create.
Everybody that didn't like Dune watched it at home on HBO Max. Not saying that everybody loved it in the theaters, but everyone that hated it watched it at home. Because some movies you got to watch in the theaters, and this one you can watch anywhere. You could watch. I'll watch Godzilla Minus One on the plane. I'm telling you right now, we're cooking. Okay, but it's interesting too because one of my favorite scenes, there was no sound. You remember that scene, Teach? We was cooking in there, where they stopped the sound completely, and it's just because remember we started off with the kamikaze pilot in this very rickety loud plane. We're landing on this crazy island. It's very eerie, but like also like, okay, I know the time period that we're in, like Teach said. And then we get the scene where we're following him in a plane again. Damn good writing. I cannot wait to write something so beautiful. I think I'm already in. It's just beautiful writing. We're back in the plane with him. Now, this is the redemption. This is the change. This is the climactic point for him in his life, per se. Not maybe for the movie, but in our protagonist's life, okay? He's in the plane. We're hanging under the plane again, but we're watching the boats around him, and everything goes silent in the movie. And it kind of slows down just a little bit. We get a little bit of slow-mo. Not too dramatic, but it goes silent. You can't hear anything. And then, boom, he does what he needs to do, and we find out later that he survives. And so we complete the Godzilla movie. The Godzilla movie is complete. Oh no, he's destroying the city and the country. He's dead. Okay. That part of the movie is done. But then we get the cutback scene to the mechanic, which we cannot go and close this space without talking about the mechanic. We got 10 minutes left, but that was one of my favorite storylines too. Then we cut back to the mechanic being like, hey, there's an eject seat right there. We got you. And it was low-key hilarious to me. Like, I was able to laugh because he was kind of calling him pussy. He's like, man, I know you pussy, so I put this little eject seat in there because I know you can't really I know you're not really about that life. But you make a decision since you think you kind of want, and that's why this writing is so good, because he did that because Kenji sits in as he's building the plane, he's like, I don't know, I kind of want to live. Oh no. And then we have that moment where he whispers to him, and where the audience is taken away from it. And then later, he's like, "Oh, there's an eject seat," and then we see him flying, parachuting out of Godzilla's mouth or away from Godzilla's mouth into the water. Boom, triumph! Right? The Godzilla movie's over. Now it's about why. It's going back to what we established in the very beginning of the film. Why am I alive? What is my purpose on this earth? Was it to kill Godzilla? Probably not. That probably wasn't my purpose. But my purpose was probably to find my why to live. We're talking about a Godzilla movie here, guys. This is like A24 stuff, okay? My purpose was to find my why to live. And that comment might have been actually disrespectful because, I mean, I love A24. Shout out to A24. But there's been some movies that they've gotten away with, Tej. I know you feel me. There's some movies that they've gotten away with, Tej. A24, you know what I'm talking about? TJ?
That's facts. They got away with Lamb and the Green Knight. Those are two very nasty
They
movies.
got away with those movies. But anyways, I just find it so rewarding, and that is why that movie stuck with so many of us. I I have been traveling probably 30 out of the last 40 days, or 39 out of the last 45 days. And so the point in which I was traveling, I missed the December 1st release because I was traveling so much. And so I couldn't go to the movies. I kid you not. I think there's at least two or three people in this room that would not stop texting me about this movie and said I need to go see it. And then all of my IG DMs were that. All of my Twitter DMs were go see Godzilla Minus One. And that, unless you're a part of what we watch, that makes me very, very hesitant because I'm like, okay. The last thing y'all hyped was that Kaleidoscope TV show, and I love you, Giancarlo Esposito. You're the best. But that Kaleidoscope
Mid.
TV show was okay. No. So I get very nervous when a lot of people tell me a movie is good. But it like tipped the scale where so many people told me, I was like, there's no way this is bad. And I don't even know if y'all really know why it's good. So let's have a what we watched last Wednesday of the year space on why this movie was so damn good. Bam, welcome to the stage. You came in a little bit late, but we've been chatting. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Just finishing work, and I had to hop in here for this space because I'm one of the.
Absolutely. Get your bars off, my friend.
I got to. Before I even dive into Godzilla, another A24 movie that they got away with was Talk to Me with the Hand. Yeah, okay. Anyways,
I'm halfway on that one.
Hold on now.
I'm,
They was cooking a little bit.
they cooked just a little bit.
a smidge, and then they burnt it.
All right, go ahead, Dan. We're gonna talk about it.
We're gonna talk about Godzilla. Real quick. I don't know if anybody else in here is like a Godzilla fan. I am a Godzilla fan from way back. My appreciation for Godzilla Minus One.
Uh-oh. Is it me or did we
We
lose
lost
him?
him. Oh,
Okay, go ahead. Your appreciation comes from where we lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Toho Studios really bringing Godzilla back to what Godzilla started off as, and that was like a metaphor for the atomic bomb, like just a catastrophe that appears, and
Yeah.
what do you do but run and cry and and survive, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I do think that
My friend, we keep losing you. You might want to hop back out and hop back in. We keep losing you. Can you hop back out and hop back in? Mm-mm. Go ahead, KP. I'm gonna let you talk, KP, and then Bam can come back in. Go ahead, KP. You've had your hand up for a little bit.
Yeah, just quick on the relationship. I I'm bad with character names, but this was the first arranged marriage I've ever seen in cinema. Because his boys was telling him, like, yo, that's your wife, right? Because they was looking for a relationship too. And they was like, yo, you got a good wife, because she was cooking, she was giving them drinks, she was serving the men. And they was like, hey, yo, you got a good girl there. And he was like, nah, that's not my girl. No, no, no. They was like, why not? Are you stupid? So I think that was one of the funnier dynamics between his friends, scientists, and everybody, and the main character. I think the relationship between those two grew because it was similar to like a real world. Like they were thrown in a house with a guy and a girl and a kid, and they had to figure it out. And I think this movie was a lot of characters trying to figure things out on the fly. Like how do you deal with something that's never been seen before? Or you never done this before. You've never been in a relationship. You never had a girlfriend. This her first time ever having a job. You just got a new job. You just got some new clothes. Your friends just like it was for me. This was like everyone's first experience in doing something for the first time and figuring things out. So I enjoyed the newness of it.
Yes. What
I
is more
enjoyed this.
romantic than that? We're going to do all the new things. We're going to embark on all new journeys together. There's nothing more romantic. And then this guy talking about, nah, that's not my baby mama. Now we're good. Yes, she is. You know? And it's, I think, Tej, I'm mad at you. I think you've been having me say Kenji this whole time. I think it's Koichi. She, Kamada, or whatever. I think the protagonist is Koichi, not Kenji. Kenji was the mechanic, I'm pretty sure. So I apologize. I think it was Koichi, that is the main character, and Nikoro, which is
Oh, my bad.
Nokido, which is the woman. Angela, welcome to the stage, and then bam, you can finish. Hopefully your audio is good. Welcome. Hi, Angela.
Hello. Hi. So amazing movie. It's the first movie I've ever seen that is dubbed since Passion of the Christ. Not dubbed, but like subtitled. So I was like kind of worried, but like it was very easy to stay in the movie.
You didn't hold on, Angela. I'm so sorry. You about to get kicked off the stage. You didn't watch Parasite?
So I watched half of it last week.
You didn't watch
Kick her.
Parasite.
Kick her.
You didn't watch
Um,
Parasite.
Kick.
So what I heard you say is you didn't watch Parasite.
so I watched. Someone told me to watch it,
Kick
You in
her.
a what we watch space, and you didn't watch Parasite.
That's
and I watched
insane.
Jason,
half of it.
Jason, have
But
you watched Parasite?
About 4 times, 5 times.
KP, have you watched Parasite? KP,
Yes, I have on Hulu. Absolutely.
Bam, have you watched Parasite? Bam, have you watched Parasite? Unmute your mic, please.
Angela's unserious. She was not
I'm
enjoying
tracking.
the first half of Parasite. She's crazy.
I have not finished Parasite actually.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is not a safe space. This isn't a safe space. We aren't
um,
we aren't in a safe space right now. We're just not in a safe. Thank you, T. We're not in a safe space. Angela, I'm gonna let you speak because it's the holiday season. You and Bam are lucky that it's the holiday giving season. I can't believe this. I'm absolutely floored. Go ahead,
Mojo
Angela.
Queen, thank you. But but no, so and again I apologize. That was the first Godzilla movie I've ever seen as well, and I didn't know that the background behind Godzilla was like a not metaphor, but it's like it's essentially like comes from like war, World War II, and so it was really interesting to see that like in cinema. And so, like, credit to like the directors this year. I feel like the biggest movies that we've seen this year are essentially just speaking on why America imperialism is trash, and imperialism in general, because the Japanese Empire they were imperialists. So like kudos to like that message being prominent. I will say, so I saw it matinee, and when the little girl called that guy daddy, and he was like, "I'm not your dad." I laughed so loudly. A bunch of people looked at me and they thought something was wrong with me. I'm sorry, like that shouldn't have been as funny as it was, but
Wait,
I think
which
it
scene was as funny as it was?
was when the girl called him daddy, like the main character
Why
daddy,
did
and
you
he
die
was like,
laughing?
He was like, "I'm not your dad," and they were like, "Why would you say that?" Like, that, like, bro, I was like,
Oh
I
my
belly
God.
laughed like that. I don't know why. That was just so funny to me. But like, yeah, and I didn't understand like the kamikaze pilots. Like after the movie, I had sympathy for them, and I had sympathy for like the nature of the Japanese soldier during that time. So yeah, it was just a really, really good movie. And like phenomenal for like they said it cost 2 quarters to make. So like really, really good. Just like visually, stunningly, the story. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I know you came in a little bit late, but yeah, we did talk about it. And quite frankly, I think I talked a lot about comedy. I don't know that anyone else has even used that word for this movie, but I think it had very, very, very funny moments. Especially the moment again, I'll talk about the scene again because it was so great, where she's in the mirror getting dressed, hun. She got her freakum dress on, sweetie. Okay, we finna go get a job. We finna go be cute. We finna get our hair done. Thank you for putting me on. Thank you for buying me this beautiful ass dress and hair products and stuff to do my hair and this beautiful full length mirror. Since you don't want to be my man, my man, my man, I'm out. Let's see. Because you know what? Y'all don't know what you got until it's gone. And it is so cliche. It is so annoying. Y'all know how I feel about colloquialisms. Ew. However, that one be spitting. That one is facts. And this movie had a whole moment where he fell to his knees, but not in like the R&B please baby please moment. He fell to his knees while she was on her knees doing her hair. Like, hold on, why are you working? I'm making all the money. And she's like, well, I need to have my own. He's like, wait, why you wearing this dress outside the house? What you mean? Why am I wearing this dress? I'm going to get a job. What you mean you need to work? What was and it was just so fulfilling to me. It was so rewarding to me to see a woman literally be up under this man's thumb, not in the sense of like abuse or control, but in a sense of dependence, right? Like almost like they were his children. And she's looking at him like, look, I'm a grown woman. Shout out Beyonce again. Freakum dressed grown woman. You could have played that during those two scenes, it would have been spot on. I am a grown woman. So if you gonna sit up here and have friends over while I'm cooking and serving the table, and they say, oh yeah, you and your wife, and you take it upon yourself to say that's not my wife, say less. You right, you got it. I'm not your wife, but somebody finna be my husband. You feel me? And I just loved it. It was so much fun. We get this in a Godzilla movie, guys. We're talking about a Godzilla movie. So thank you, Angela. Bam. Go ahead and finish what you had to say. Hopefully your audio is good. Thank you for waiting.
Mic check, mic check. Everybody hear me? Do I sound good?
You're good.
Awesome, cool. Well, I'm just gonna finish up that thought about just the studio bringing Godzilla back to its roots, it being a metaphor for the atomic bomb. And I forgot gentleman's name, but who talked about the like catastrophe and everybody kind of adjusting to things. Uh,
Right.
that's such a beautiful point, because that was the entire movie, the adjustment catastrophe. What do we do when our lives are just upended? A lot of us know people, or us ourselves, who have had a baby just pop into your life, and you got to figure that
Yep.
that baby is your Godzilla. Like, that baby
Yo, you
is
spitting.
your Godzilla.
That baby is your
and
Godzilla.
and
Exactly.
usually when I watch Godzilla movies, specifically the ones made for the MonsterVerse or American made Godzilla movies, the human element is extremely annoying. I don't want to see that. I came here to see big monsters fight, but the human element is typically very annoying. But in this movie, like you said, Mo, we're getting very human stories, like very like poignant stories and messages from these people. And it's like, yo, this is a Godzilla movie. Like, this, this is what we get.
So many times I had to tap back in when Godzilla got on screen. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Godzilla movie. Oh shit.
And I'll close with this. I think this atomic breath scene where the plates, they extend and they light up and they go up Godzilla's tail to his back, and then slam down, and he shoots off this breath, and it blows up the city, and people are caught up in its whirlwind, and it's just this massive calamity. I love that scene. Again,
Mm, mm,
just
mm.
the calamity of it all. If you haven't checked out Shin Godzilla, which is also a Japanese made Godzilla movie, it's got a
Yes. Seconded.
phenomenal atomic breath scene as well, where you really like the score behind it and everything. You just get the dread of this impending doom about to occur, and when it does, you're like, holy shit. And again, just hammering home that Godzilla is a catastrophe. It's a man-made catastrophe at that. Like if they're
Yes,
not testing
yes.
nuclear bombs in Bikini Bottom over there, uh, Godzilla doesn't come about. And so this is, the result of our own sins, the consequences of our own actions. And I I just love everything about it. Love us getting back to
Ugh,
form. Shout
I'm getting chills.
shout out to
Yes, yes,
shout out to Robert
yes.
J. Oppenheimer. His greatest contribution to society is Godzilla.
Yo, you spitting. That was bars. There we close the space and there's what we watch. No. Uh Bam, I love what you said, right? I really, really do. Because and I wish I had some Japanese, artists and or just people in here that could really kind of speak to the history of, Godzilla, because you're right, Gojira, excuse me, right? You're right. This man-made creature came about because of because of our, kind of greed and or desire for control. And so for it to be a Japanese, character and creature and destructive kind of entity, it was birthed from what Japan went through in a certain time frame. And this is why I tell you it's the power of film and TV, because these movies will always tell you, and creatures and stories and franchises that are birthed from different countries or different, like, ideas or cities or revolutions or whatever, come from how the people felt in those moments and to provide different perspectives as a result of what's happening in the real world, right? So film and TV is fiction, yes, but they're birthed from real people with real feelings and real kind of perspectives on what's going on in the 60s, in the 30s, in the 80s, like whatever time period it is. And the film and the stories we tell will always reflect that. So I don't want to speak because I'm not Japanese. I only study it and I only is absolutely obsessed with it in every form on screen. But I would love to hear how someone with that kind of Japanese background can talk about what Gojira means in the artistic and on-screen sense based on the history of Japan. And I think, Bam, that's what's so beautiful about this movie is it kind of shows us, like, we know we're not new to origin stories of creatures, but we're new to origin stories of creatures that become almost secondary or tertiary within their stories, right? The movie isn't called, you know, Kenji, it isn't called The Kamikaze Pilot. The movie isn't called, Lost Loved One, right? The movie is called Godzilla Minus One. This is a Godzilla movie, and we're getting extremely profound investment on characters simply because we're getting it from a Japanese filmmaker that understands everything surrounding Godzilla and Godzilla himself, right? Like, Godzilla is this unbeatable creature. Let's see what it actually would take to beat him. You would actually be crazy to think you could beat him, right? That's why we got that scene where the doctor's like, we're gonna sink him. And everyone's like, yo, what the fuck is this man talking about? What? We're gonna sink Godzilla? Please shut up. And they're like, no, 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 no. Trust me, we can do this. And then if that doesn't work, then we can push him up. So now we're getting physics in there. So, we in my bag, right? And so it's very, very fun to see us really kind of dive in. And we kept the movie not too long. Everything mattered. Every piece of dialogue mattered. We got romance. We got comedy. Angela, thank you for realizing how parts of the movie were so funny. And we get like almost historically accurate, but we don't get too much into the war movie, right? And it's just so much fun. The M series, welcome. Did you love Godzilla Minus One or did you love Godzilla Minus One? You could pick either one, really.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As a big Godzilla fan myself, it was cool to because I was doing like a whole marathon before it even came out, so I had to rewatch 1954, the very first one, and
Exactly.
and tying it back into Minus One, even Shin Godzilla too. I heard that mentioned also.
Oh, so
All
good.
of them, all of them have pretty much taken the missing horror element of what Godzilla is, as far as it being a force of nature,
Right.
and reworked it into something that we could possibly see as a realistic tone in nature. And I think also with the human element too, And I know it's happened in other Godzilla films after like 54 to what it is now, but a
Yep.
lot of them definitely touch on the goofiness of humanity more so. But I think the American,
Goofy as hell.
yeah, the Americans definitely just don't really get it as far as what that.
Mm.
It's kind of like really one note, so that's why everybody gets irritated at it. It's like, okay, especially for like I think that was King of Monsters that was close to it. And funny enough, ironically, even when we talk with the MonsterVerse, I think the best representation of that would be honestly Kong Skull Island.
Yep.
With that was the one that had the somewhat close enough balance to dealing with a real world application to the events that's going on with the war, to
And I
how's
love
it
that.
actually impacting humans. But I think that's what's missing in with all
And I
the
and I love that you said that, right? Like, and Tej, I want you to butt in here because I think you said something very interesting during and after the movie. You probably said it multiple times. What did you say whenever you watched this film and you were like, I don't know that Hollywood, don't let nobody else teach. What did you say when
Like
we walked out?
we really obviously Hollywood's going to keep making these movies because we go see them. But when it comes to quality, it's just we don't have. It's like you were saying before. It's the cultural touch points of what Godzilla means, and people in America and American filmmakers are just not tapped into that. And there's such a cultural richness to explore here with not just kamikazes, but also individualism versus duty to your country. Those things are so culturally specific that it's kind of hard to envision an American filmmaker or American director making a movie that's this good on every level. It's just hard to see.
I,
Yeah. Go
you
ahead.
you kind of right as more so just kind of studio direction as far as with focusing on specifically just the blockbuster theme instead of just actually attempting to make a movie and then have it
Right.
be the benefit of everything else after that. Because even with that, as far as with minus one, it's still in a sense it's still a blockbuster, but it was still focusing on okay, here's what we have. And here's what we're trying to craft with the story. So let's actually go out and try to make it,
And
then we'll add
I,
in the elements to make it a blockbuster. Because at the end of the day, people
That's how
still
you make
care
a movie.
about,
That's
yeah,
how you make a movie.
exactly. And
That's
it's
how you make a fucking amazing
yeah,
movie. Because for me, and uh, it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of like a double edged sword here watching this film. Because I'm like, damn, well, what have I been watching this whole time? But then simultaneously, I'm like, if they would have came out the gate with this, I probably wouldn't watch the rest of the movies, you know? So I'm like, whoa, we're setting a standard, but the risk of setting a standard is like quite literally, and I don't say this lightly, every other American Godzilla movie I've watched looks like a joke to me. Is Godzilla a joke to you? Because you go into a creature feature, you go into a Godzilla movie. There's no surprises here, guys. He's big, he's strong. He might get a little bit stronger throughout the course of the movie. He's gonna kill a few people. He's gonna kill thousands of people, and he's gonna go away for a while, and we're gonna try to recover. And then woohoo, triumph! We may have defeated him, or stopped him, or maimed him, or maybe we give him a hug at the like. It's just how the movie, what a Godzilla movie is. And this movie, Godzilla Minus One, said, no, you don't. You absolutely have no idea what a Godzilla movie is. Here's what a Godzilla movie is. How can I watch another movie after this? What? No, I'm not watching another Godzilla movie after this. And of course I am. I said I am. I'm absolutely going to watch every Godzilla movie. I don't know if I'm as much of a franchise fan as most of you have said coming in, but I'm definitely going to watch Godzilla because I love Godzilla. I told y'all. We just should have listened to Godzilla. Godzilla just wants somebody to talk to. And if y'all just let Godzilla talk to me real quick, I'm sure we could figure this out. Because when you a giant, when you that big and important and powerful, similar to me, people don't understand you. And so if me and him could just have a conversation, I think we could figure some things out. Really and truly. That's all it is. KP, you laughing. But like we built different out here. I want to welcome Jose to the stage. Hi, Jose. Welcome to What We Watch. I think you're a new
Yep,
voice
yes, my
here.
first one.
Yeah, let's talk to us. How you feeling? I'm glad you're here.
Oh, of course, just for context, I've been a Godzilla fan since I was like 3 years old, so this is like, my whole childhood here. One, yes, it is like the first film to really evoke the spirit of the original,
Mm,
but to the point of like the MonsterVerse too. I think, yes, it's goofier, but at the same time, for a long period, for like 20 years of its history, like Godzilla was goofy too, right? So I think it's,
yeah,
two sides of the same character. So it's kind of nice that like obviously the Japanese takes it more serious, right? But with the American side, it still brings up that campiness that was Godzilla, right? Because I think Godzilla, being that it's almost what, a 70-year franchise now, probably one of the most versatile characters out there when you look at just the history of film. It's been over 36 films now, so
There you go. I think I entered the space saying I was like, we're at like 20 something, 36. There you go. I mean,
36.
what other character has 36 movies out?
Then you got to add in like all the comic books and all that stuff. Like hell, fuck, Godzilla just went to hell at one point and came out a winner. Shit. So
Oh
yeah,
wow, I have to see that. I love that. Go
You just
ahead,
be a
Jose.
super
yeah,
fan.
it's interesting. Like he
Go
had
ahead,
the
Jose.
sun and everything.
What'd you say, Jose? Go ahead.
I said also in the comics, he just beat Superman too. Also too, I think,
Yep.
so a lot, I don't want to like, bring up points that other people have made too, but if you're a long, fan of this franchise too, there's a lot of callbacks to previous films in this film that, if you go and watch films in the past and then rewatch Minus One, you're gonna see a lot of callbacks to the franchise that, probably go over, a first time, watcher's
Mm,
head. So
yeah.
it's definitely worth the rewatch, if you go and, revisit films in the past.
Absolutely. I fully agree. I mean, again, like what character, and I'm not even saying like what film franchise, what character has 36 movies? That gives credence immediately to the rich cultural history and impact and meaning that Godzilla has, right? Again, I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but it would seem as though Godzilla means, like, represents, right, is the term. Godzilla as an entity and character represents a lot of what the Japanese people have gone through and how they kind of deal with it and kind of the rise and fall throughout their lives from a from a military perspective and things like that. So it's really cool that we just get to enjoy these movies in a theater. I mean, and I tweeted this and what we watch co-host, if you could find it. um, no, a lot of you didn't watch Last Voyage of the Demeter, and it is so similar to Godzilla Minus One. It was a beautiful, beautiful story with an absolutely terrifying center point villain and character, and it is gripping. Like, and we mean it literally and figuratively. Like during Godzilla Minus One, when Godzilla comes, like just puts his nose up over the water. I, if I was the only one terrified in that movie theater, I would say you were lying. There's no way grown ass men were in there like, yo, what the fuck is this? If you were on that boat, you're like, oh my gosh, not this thing. And thank you, Bam, for the term breastplates, because I've been saying he's just been serving body this whole time. So that's what I've been saying. So you have to forgive me. But like he's just he's so beautiful but so terrifying, and it is fascinating to experience that in theaters because you get to be in this moment that shout out to the Nicole Kidman AMC. Like, you don't get this feeling outside of a theater, you don't. And so it's so much fun to kind of watch this stuff. Angela, go ahead.
No, like to your point, so like I'm like a huge contemporary history nerd, and you know I don't think we have anything like this in America, and I think it's like part of like this American like ideology that we have where like we don't like to tell like the sad parts of our history, like
Mm,
like with World War II, like we don't like to tell people the main reason that war was won was because of the Soviets and like communism. Like we can't tell people that. Or like Vietnam, like we can't be like, well, we had no business there to begin with. So like upon thousands of like men died because of like this like weird paranoia we have. Like we don't like share stories like that here.
right,
Like
exactly.
yeah, and so like that's one thing, and I was talking to my best friend about it because he just saw it this past week. It's like it's one thing that I appreciate was like the movie allowed itself to be vulnerable about like Imperial Japan did some really fucked up shit. Like, like but the
I'm
movie
telling you.
allowed itself to be vulnerable about that, which is something that I really appreciated, and we don't get that. Like I mean the most recent Oppenheimer was like really good to a certain extent, but even that the director was British. So like we don't really like get that a lot in American cinema. So it's something that I really appreciated in that movie.
Thank you so much for saying that, Angela. You are spitting absolutely. It allows itself to be vulnerable, right? Because again, I went into this Godzilla movie thinking that, to Jose's point, we were going to get what we usually get, which is camp, which is the camp goofy Godzilla, which is, the other version of Godzilla that we're all so used to seeing in America. And it's just like you can still be vulnerable and have really high comedic moments and have really, like, to me, it was gut wrenching, right, at any point, and it was absolutely horrifying at any point. It was also very hilarious and like heartwarming at some points. Every single scene hit so hard. But to me, even the point where the neighbor, right, which was a beautiful storyline as well, the neighbor was getting upset with him. That was just kind of funny to me. I'm like, damn, she's cooking this man. She is cooking him right now. And it was just like, and so it's just when you allow yourself to be vulnerable as a people, as a filmmaker, it just it renders itself to like have these community discussions like this because it touched all of us. I don't know that any of us are Japanese. I don't know that any of us, talk about Godzilla a lot outside of spaces like this. So I'm just so glad that we get movies that we can host what we watch spaces like this and really talk about how film brings us together and how we can all enjoy a movie like this. And I think Angela, you hit it spot on. It's because it's like we're gonna tell the sad parts. We're gonna show the fucked up parts. We're gonna show the triumph too, and we're gonna have fun with it all. Bam, go ahead.
Um, so I just wanted to speak to something that I might have just grasped really quickly. In regards to like the MonsterVerse Godzilla's movies versus these Toho Studio Godzilla movies.
Uh-huh.
I always kind of regard the MonsterVerse movies a lot like shonen battle anime. So you like your Dragon Ball Z's, your Naruto's, where it's like we're gonna pit big guy versus other big guys, and it's gonna be a lot of cool stuff happening, and it's gonna be kind of goofy, but also, it's action. It's yeah. I watched that and it was cool to see. Um, and I say that because when you think of like American sensibilities, Western sensibilities, and like what's popular over here in regards to anime, it's at that kind of battle anime where it's just action, not really too heavy on the drama or commentary, and it's spectacle. Whereas the Toho Godzilla is the like you said, the stuff that's we're going to talk about the nitty gritty. We're going to get vulnerable. We're going to talk about the darker parts of our history. And if anything, if anybody's been had two eyes to see and two ears to hear, you know that here in the U.S. people don't like to talk about the darker sides of history. They're literally trying to whitewash history from the history books, and that's why it's great to see this Godzilla movie being like so well accepted. But I just would never see that
Yes.
come from our Hollywood, not over here, not in this America.
Right. They just not spitting like that. They just not. I mean, and my my entire existence is 80% in what we watch is a Hollywood film. So it's not like we don't do certain things well. It's just that we do. Some people do certain things better. You know what I mean? And I think Japanese filmmaking and Japanese culture just gets storytelling a little bit better sometimes, especially, given these creature features and things like that. Cape, I want to welcome Nem. Nem, you're speaking. Hello, welcome to What We Watch. Always a listener, but glad to see you on the stage. Tell us how you feel about Godzilla Minus One.
Actually, I had to step away from the uh, from the cast, and I came back, and it was like, oh, start listening, and then it just brought me in as a speaker. So I was like, I'm gonna sit here quietly, but I appreciate you always extending your platform whenever I show up. So I always
Did
appreciate that.
Did you want to say anything about Godzilla? I know you got one thing. I know you got one thought. Come on, Nem.
Just
Brilliant
just the
brain.
sure the aspect of what the Japanese mindset in film brings to the table just in general, was just something I wanted to speak to. But it's very uh, like the contrast that you would make to like Hollywood, where everything is like kind of to the point and not very doesn't dig too deep, right? And with the Japanese approach, everything is a lot more flowing and often like sourced from some kind of nature or inspiration of nature. And I think that kind of comes across in a
Yes.
lot of elements that you see just in Japanese film in general, but especially Godzilla.
Right. So many people think that like if you go deeper and you examine that we're getting too like, it's too much and it's no longer fun. And like you know, right? Like to my point in my life, it's like, oh, y'all film bros. I'm not smart enough to talk about movies with y'all. And, you know, I see something to like, you know, even like join and speak and they're like, oh no, they know too much. They go too deep. And it's like, these things can still be very, very fun, right? Bam and
Yeah.
Angela, I'm gonna, you know, sorry, I don't know why y'all are here without having watched Parasite in its entirety. Please get with it. But like, yeah, you know, so happy you guys are here though. But you know what we watched was birthed from Parasite 2019. I mean, this is a South Korean film, completely subtitled, foreign film that won Best Picture. You know, like this is unheard of in Hollywood history. And but it was that good. And I walked out of the theater knowing that in September of 2019 or August of 2019. I was like, yeah, this is one of them ones. This is it. This is what we're doing here. And it's just like you can dig deep, you can be profound, you can tell the full story, right? You can tell the fucked up parts of your story and still have a lot of fun, right? And so I want people to know like that's also representative in what we watch. Like we're gonna dig deep, but we're gonna have a good ass time doing it. And you're gonna enjoy the conversations and you're gonna enjoy what you learn and what you understand, and you're gonna be able to look at film differently and even, you know, improve it. So it's really, really fun. So I don't know if I interrupted you, Nem, but go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, you're good. I was pretty much my spiel.
Yeah. KP, your hand is up?
Yeah, just a couple things. This movie reminded me of two movies, um, The Wiz, and the fact that it's a story that you know, but told from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's familiar, but different. And I enjoyed that a lot about this movie because The Wiz is my favorite movie of all time. It's the GOAT. You can't don't argue me down. Um, and then secondly, this movie reminds me of Killers of the Flower Moon, meaning that the story is it's a true story. Well, not a true story, but the story of Godzilla is a story of war that happened in
Right.
Japan.
Right.
Killers of the Flower Moon
It's a
is an
representation of that. Yeah.
right, and Killers of the Flower Moon is a true story of an American story, right? Or quote unquote American. I don't want to get that deep, but
Well, Native American.
yes. So I those two movies at this particular time, they hit me the hardest because they bring more than just what you might think will come from these movies. It's so much deeper. And when y'all were saying that stories in Hollywood don't have depth, it's kind of like music now, the streaming era. It's so much of it, so you got to mine it. You
Right.
got to, and I know Mo, you be mining. You got your hard hat on. You be mining. So,
Period.
but
I
you
don't
got to.
labor, but I do labor. Okay. Period. No,
So
it's
yeah, I this movie was fantastic, but it hit so many different levels on the spectrum for me.
yeah. And
Yeah.
thank you for saying that because I think, you know, and it's not that Hollywood doesn't have depth because I've watched fantastic films, but it's just a different kind of depth. It's just right. Like Hollywood does it well for the, you know, I watch a lot of films. So like I think my kind of feeling about Hollywood is skewed, maybe a little bit better just because like a lot of the mainstream stuff they don't be really hitting like that. But a lot of it does. But like I don't think Hollywood doesn't do it well. It's just that a lot of Japanese and South Korean films like they just do it better, you know? You know, Hollywood makes it a hot line, and you know, the the foreign films make it a hot song. And so, but I think it's so interesting too that like we get these moments, and you right, I like that metaphor a lot, like mining, right? Like we get to mine and we get to really dig deep. And I said that earlier, like Godzilla minus one, you know what this movie is, like you know what it is, but then simultaneously you're in it and you're like you don't. I had no idea what this movie was going to be about, right? And so it was just really exciting that I was annoyed at every turn for the week and a half that I didn't watch it and everybody else did. I mean, I was like, you know, in the Bahamas at one point, in DC at one point. I was in so many cities doing my own thing, working and some leisure, some working, you know, preparing for the Texas champions. Shout out to UT, shout out to my Longhorns, gang, gang, we in the playoffs. And I'm like trying to enjoy it. And I'm like, every other 5 minutes, I get a, hey, did you see Godzilla minus one? I'm like, no, I haven't. I haven't gotten to see it. I haven't even been home to sit down in the theater for a while, please. And I'm so glad that I was annoyed and just kind of nagged to go watch it because it is that good. It's better than 20 people over 2 weeks telling me to go watch it on all of the platforms, on every app that I have on my phone that you could tell me to watch a movie on. I was told to watch this movie. And so I had to close out with the last What We Watch Wednesday with one of the most beautiful films we've seen of this year, Godzilla Minus One, completely subtitled. Watch Parasite. Also, Drew, please entertain me. Please trust me on this What We Watch Wednesday recommendation and watch Last Voyage of the Demeter. I don't know how you feel about Dracula or what rendition of Dracula you feel or are familiar with, or what you feel about vampire stories. Last Voyage of the Demeter is absolutely stunning. It is so, so good. You're also on a boat, but it's a very, very different perspective because you're not looking to something in the water. That motherfucker's on the boat with these people. It is a beautiful movie. And, KP, as you were mentioning some movies, I was like, I don't know how you got the whiz out of Godzilla Minus One. I don't know. But like I hear you, and thank you for landing your plane. Pun intended, because I was like, what is he talking about? The Wiz, what? But I appreciate you kind of telling your story. And to me, like I said, Godzilla Minus One is unlike a lot of movies I've seen. But if I were to take some elements from this year that I sat in a theater and watched a movie that I really wasn't really, I went in not really sure what I was going to get, and I was absolutely blown away. Last Voyage of the Demeter. So thank you so much. Happy What We Watch Wednesday, the last one of 2023. We're up for 2024. We've got a new website coming. We've got new mission statements coming. I've got at least 4 projects I'm very, very excited to share with all of you. Very excited. Thank you for always supporting me. This is our 3rd year of What We Watch ending. We're entering our 4th year. We've been doing this. Y'all have been riding and rocking with me for so long. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Um, and as your resident villain apologist, let's just ask Godzilla how he feels. Let's just hear him out. That's what we watch. Thank you guys. Bye. Happy Christmas. Happy holidays. And enjoy your evenings and the rest of the year. Happy New Year.